I'll be glad to see it. It's really exciting in New York when both teams are in play.
I never heard him. We did not.
Get ready for some.
Sure. This is a song that I allegedly wrote. It may be the only song I ever wrote. And I've only performed it live on stages about 3 or 4 times in my life. And I recorded it twice, 2 slightly different versions. The original story took place in 1953, based on a trip down to New Orleans with Guy Carroll and Frank Hamilton, a couple of young Californians who showed up in New York City at that time with guitars. And we just started talking about the trip and how we were gonna head down south and listen to some music.
Yeah, it was the way I heard this story, because I heard Jack do it a few times. And I had the record and I listened to it over and over again. Because he went down there in search of a banjo player called Billy Fair. Now just because of my age, my first Bob Dylan record was Highway 61.
Yeah.
But then I had a drama teacher in high school that I couldn't, I wanted my guitar to sound like Jimi Hendrix, but my dad would only let me have an acoustic guitar, not because he hated rock and roll, but because there was 5 kids in the house and it was loud enough as it was. And plus I wasn't old enough to get in a beer joint, so I could get in a coffee house. And so when that happened, I started hearing about people that there were some earlier Bob Dylan records, and sure enough, my drama teacher in high school, who's the only guy that didn't kick me out of his class, gave me a copy of the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, and I started hanging out in the coffee houses and backtracking to all that music and where it came from, and that's just become my nature over the years. Now this is Texas in 1969. And my hobby when I was in high school was turning cowboys onto LSD. So Ramblin' Jack Elliott made perfect sense to me. So Jack tells about going looking for Billy Fair, and I kind of try to figure out how to tell stories like that myself and make up songs about where I've been and who I thought I was and who I knew. And I got lucky, and when I was 17 years old, I met Townes Van Zandt. And I kind of followed him in a big circle around Texas for a couple of years, until one day he turned around and said, "You following me?" I thought I needed to increase my range a little bit. Now, I'm from San Antonio. Austin ain't that far away, but it never made sense as a place to go for me, even at that point in the late 60s and early 70s, because I took one look around. Weather's too good, girls too pretty, dope too cheap. I never get anything done here. So I went to Nashville. And I had good teachers there. I met Guy Clark, and Jerry Jeff Walker had come through town. And one night we were sitting around Jim McGuire's photography studio, which is a place that we went in the middle of the night where we couldn't bother anybody. Jerry Jeff said, "Ramblin' Jack Elliott's at the exit in." And We went down there. That's the first time I saw Jack play. He probably doesn't remember this, but we met briefly in 1989 in, I think, Raleigh, North Carolina. I was opening for Bob Dylan, and Jack came to the show. Probably don't remember that. I barely remember it. So, that whole story about going to meet the banjo player in New Orleans, Billy Fair. I moved to New York when I was 50 years old. I lived behind Matt Humanoff's guitar shop, which cost me a lot of fucking money. I went in there one day and Matt said, "Hey, I'd like you to meet my friend Billy Fair." In a small world when you're dragging a guitar around. Later, I'm in a TV show called Tremaine, because David Simon had decided that I could act, and I don't know where he got that idea from. But I was kind of playing me, so it was okay. And I had one of those days when they were holding me, which means that you're not working tomorrow, but you're not important enough that we're going to fly you home, so, in case you work day after tomorrow. So I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with that time, and then I remembered 9/12 greens. See, the greens is like greens in terms of a mood, like the blues. Because the 9/12 refers to Billy Fair's place was at 912 Toulouse Street. And I realized that I'd walked out of Preservation Hall one night and I was stumbling around a couple of blocks, and this is stone sober. I've been sober for 30 years. I'm still stumbling.
The number was painted on the garbage can in the back alley. So
yeah, I see, that's what I was looking for.
In the wrong alley by mistake.
And I decided to. In the song, Jack talks about there's this alley behind 912 Greens, and 912 Toulouse. It was the only entrance he ever knew to that place, because everybody came in through the alley. A lot of musicians, a lot of artists living there. And a girl.
I saw the front door on that building.
And a girl that danced around an imprisoned banana tree with no clothes on. I remember that part. And there's a fence you had to get over, and that's all there was to it. Now you're up. Watch out for the rusty nail. Now you're over. But I figured out that there ain't no artists, there ain't no musicians living on Toulouse Street now, because it's all condos. They look the same from the outside, but you can't get into that alley anymore because there's a lot higher fence, and it just looks like an alarm will probably go off if you go all the way over. I figured out it changed a lot, and I couldn't tell anything about where 912 was from the back, so I just gave it up. This late by that time, I was just sort of naturally headed towards the river. Stopped at the Café du Monde, which is actually where Jack actually found Billy Fair in the first place, was at the Café du Monde, according to the document. And I had a cup of coffee. Okay, I had some beignets. And I walked on up over the levee, over to the river.
Have you ever stand shiver just because you were looking at a river.
That's the story about 912 Toulouse Street and Billy Fair and Ramblin' Jack Elliott, y'all.
Thank you, Steve.